Blessing and welcome to today's Law Enforcement Daily Devotional. Today's read was out of Psalm 8, 9, 16, 19, 21, 24, and 29. And we seem to be in this season where Psalms is telling us about how God loves justice. He's a God of justice. He expects us to carry out justice, and not just justice, but his justice. We know there's several different systems of justice all across this world right now, and there have been for centuries, all these different types of governments that had different types of law enforcement and different governments, but only one government is the true government, the true judgment, the true righteousness, the true way of doing things in truth, because there's only one truth, and our God is a God of truth, and he's a God of justice, and he's a God of love, and so on and so forth. He's a great God with many attributes. But we're in a season where we're reading about his judgment, and I think it's just a great time for us to really camp on that and think about it and what it means to us. So let's get into it. Today in Psalm chapter 9, there were a whole lot of verses about justice. 9:3, it reminds us that we serve a God of justice. And it says, "When my enemies turn back, they stumble and perish before you. For you have maintained my just cause. You have set on the throne of judgment, on the throne," talking about God, "you have set on the throne judging righteously." God judges righteously. He judges in truth. And then it jumps down in verses 7 through 12, just full of good stuff, good law enforcement takeaway. Verse 7 says, "But the Lord abides forever. He has established his throne for judgment." This encourages me to think about how my job and the things that I do in the name of justice line up with God's justice. We've got to make sure that they're right. And also the fact that I can't hide anything from him. He's a God of justice. He's kind of like my ultimate authority and boss over my job, because justice is his. So he looks to make sure that I'm doing justice correctly. And that's very important. Verse 8, "And he will judge the world in righteousness. He will execute judgment for the peoples with equity." God is a good, just, fair God. And he judges with equity, equally. Everybody, is made the same. Verse 9, "The Lord also will be a stronghold for the oppressed, a stronghold in times of trouble." God is a stronghold for the oppressed, who we are to help, who we're to bring along. When we go out on our job, the helpless, these are the ones that we're there for. Verse 12 says, well, let me just say this. It talks about the afflicted crying out to God, which reminds me of Genesis 18:20 and the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. God says that he heard the outcry of the people of Sodom and Gomorrah because they were being mistreated and abused in a horrible situation. So God sends down huge stones of burning sulfur, and he destroys the city and everything in it. Well, this reminds me that there are still outcries today from people who are oppressed and afflicted. And instead of God sending down giant stones of burning sulfur, he sends law enforcement. He doesn't need us, but he sends us. He's asked us to help him. He set this work before us to do. So he sends us not to burn and kill and destroy, but to help the afflicted, to help the oppressed, to seek justice for them against the ones that are oppressing them. So just an incredible read. I would suggest going back and rereading Psalm chapter 9. And before I run out of time, let me jump over to 16 and 19, because they had a couple of law enforcement takeaways too. And I apologize, there's so many in today's read, I couldn't hit all of them in the time we've got, but I'm trying to hit as many as I can. 16, 8, and 9. "God is with me to protect me, to counsel me, to lead me in the way I should go." These verses talk about God being our backup, being our partner, if you will. But when we're on duty and we come into bad situations, he is the one who protects us. He counsels us. He shows us the right direction. We've got to pray to him and ask him to be there for us in these bad times, and he will be. Jump into 19, verse 9. God's judgment is true. Again, it is all based on his righteousness. So make sure you've read up on these. They're incredible. Tomorrow's read is Psalm 33, 65, 66, 67, and 68. So there's about 5 more Psalms that we're going to read tomorrow. We'll see what kind of law enforcement takeaways they have in them. Any questions, anything you saw that you want to bring to my attention or discuss, email me, chuck@fcpo.org. You guys be blessed, and I'll see you tomorrow.